I'm Sonny Liston, I'm Jack Dempsey, there's no one like me. I'm from Nairclaw, there's no one that can match me.
Boxing beats and rhymes.
The best boxing channel on YouTube.
All the way, mate, all the way.
It's a bad time to lose for Wilder because he's had it in his mind for a little while that he can turn in any type of mediocre boxing performance and the right hand will cover up all the cracks that were exposed in the previous rounds. I think the Wilder who fought Stavern to win the title had a little more humility about him and wouldn't have made so much excuses, would have took the L on the chin and tried to come back better. But at 35 years of age, pretty much set in his ways, this could be a very difficult one to come back from. I predicted Tyson Fury to win. I said Tyson Fury had to change his tactics, had to press the fight more. I wasn't sure if he could do it though. Sometimes you need to change things up and try something different, but are you capable of doing it? And Fury proved a lot of people wrong. I thought Fury was going to win more conclusively than he did last time on points. But in the build-up to the fight, Wilder was saying, I'm more confident, I'm more calm, I can just take my time and do what I'm doing. And I was thinking, didn't you hear what the guy said? He said he's going to take the fight to you. You have to prepare for anything. You might not be allowed to take your time. You have to be prepared to fight to what pace your opponent in there is setting. But Wilder, with the Brazil and the Ortiz fight behind him, I think he was convinced that yes, I can just knock anyone out. It doesn't matter what he does. It doesn't matter who critiques his skill. He can erase all the criticism with one right hand. But that belief system has been hit real hard. He also says he meditates. When you meditate, you have to unburden yourself of all your bullshit, like your mask that you put up for the whole world. How does he go back to that? You have to go into meditation with clean thoughts. You can't go into meditation in denial. It's not a place that is conducive with good meditation. If George Foreman takes Wilder on to train, I hope Foreman shares his experience of when he fought Ali and got beat and all the excuses he made when Ali beat him. George needs to inform Wilder how it ate him up and put him in a bad place for a long time in terms of his boxing career. We're talking the first phase of Foreman's pro career in the 70s. He went on to fight Jimmy Young after the Ali loss. He was outboxed. He was put on the canvas by the light-hitting Jimmy Young and took a L. In the dressing room, it was said that Foreman was hallucinating. He soon retired from boxing after that. Found God. He returned to the ring in the 80s. It was said because he needed to raise funds for his church. Not that he was broke, but, I don't think he was charging no tithe or anything. He was just doing it for the love, preaching to school kids, people who going through a rough time. George better tell him all of that stuff he went through because he didn't take the Ali loss very well. Foreman admitted after the Ali loss that he hated Ali. The guy beating me, taking my title, and wouldn't give me a rematch. All Foreman thought about was how he was going to get a title shot and give Ali the beating of his life. He was paid $3 million for the Ali fight in Zaire, and he said he couldn't enjoy the money for years because he couldn't stop making excuses for the defeat. He blamed it on a cut eye when he was sparring in Zaire. That actually delayed the fight. He accused Ali's trainer of loosening the ring ropes so he could lean away from Ali's blows. Later on he said, I wish I hadn't made those excuses because it's almost like scarring a great name. He says he was beaten fair and square. Ali beat him up. Foreman said he should have allowed him to bathe in his victory instead of coming up with excuses to diminish Ali. It took him ages to recover from that. Ages. He had to lose to Jimmy Young in Puerto Rico, have an hallucination, didn't know what was happening. He had to find God and Jesus Christ. It was that devastating. Because not dissimilar to Wilder, although Foreman was knocking out a higher grade of opponent, he was destroying everything in front of him. In all truth, analysing the Rumble in the Jungle, I think Foreman was damaged before he got to the ring. There are stories that he tried to fly out of Zaire, possibly after he got his eye cut. Didn't want to go through with the fight. Apparently, they took precautions to make sure Foreman didn't get on a plane and didn't get out of the country. Ali was having a ball of a time out there. You know, he even had time to fly his girlfriend over there, and his wife came over to confront Ali about the situation. He was greeted by crowds who would follow him around the street. Ali, Boumaye, Ali, Boumaye, Ali, Boumaye, which means Ali, kill him. Wherever they saw Foreman, Ali, Boumaye, Ali, Boumaye. Foreman was isolated, and this must have had an impact on Foreman. Wilder is a lazy fighter. Lazy. I said in my pre-fight prediction, use your feet. Let Fury chase you with that 273 bulk. Make him miss, because it's going to take his toll on Fury. But it takes discipline. Wilder went with the jabs early, but he loses discipline. He got hit, got roughed up, lost his discipline, and lost the fight strategy. This happens to boxers who don't trust the process. Use footwork. Parry, duck, slip underneath punches. What no one has said about that fight is how vulnerable Fury was in that fight, because the result is all important. But the result has gone and went. Big up Tyson Fury. You're not going to see no videos from me trying to debunk Glovegate. There's other channels who've done it pretty well. No point. But we want to talk boxing. We want to move on. The fight's gone. We're thirsting for that knowledge. We're thirsting to break down the science, and that's what we're going to do. Now, I've watched the fight a whole load of times. I got hold of the ESPN broadcast. But one thing they did point out, and one thing I saw, was Tyson Fury was gassing. He was actually blowing pretty hard. Why? Well, he came in at 273 and was setting a good work rate. He was putting more power than he's used to in all of his shots. Of course, that's going to test your gas tank. One heavyweight always comes up when they're talking about bad stamina, and that's AJ. Well, who does have good stamina then? If you're a top quality fighter and you're fighting top quality opposition regular over long periods, we should see varied stages of your career where you finish fights looking fatigued and others where you don't. We should see some fights where you finish and you could do another 15. And we're saying, oh man, looks like you could do another 15. And we should see other fights where you're holding onto the ropes or your coach exhausted. That's boxing. I remember that Ali Chuvalo fight. He fought George Chuvalo twice, the Canadian. And Ali basically won the majority of the rounds. He was landing punches as he pleased. Jabs, uppercuts, hooks, everything. This was for the NABF title, 12-rounder. After the final bell, Ali just propped his forearms on the top ropes, tired, exhausted. Even when he does the post-fight interview, he's calling out Frazier. He's breathing as he talks, exhausted. Because Chuvalo pounded the body. Low blows, legal blows, he didn't care. He was just rough, tough, had a great chin and walked through everything. Ali was exhausted. That's boxing. Sometimes you're going to have to be exhausted. It is what it is. This was 1972. Ali was the same age as Tyson Fury. Ali had to fight the right fight. You don't brawl with Chuvalo. You don't. You don't do that. You box him with movement. But that was Ali's old style in the 60s. In the 70s, Ali was in the pocket with Joe Frazier. A rope-a-dope with George Foreman because he didn't have the leg speed. But he had to go back to moving and hitting. Him moving like that took his toll. Chuvalo whacking him to the body, it took his toll. Now, George Foreman, he took Chuvalo out in 3. I remember once saying that George Foreman actually used to move around the ring and had decent footwork, and people were laughing. Who are you talking about? Go watch the fights. That's what you have to do. Go watch Foreman use his footwork to get out of the range of the jab and throw his own jab. Actually pretty light on his feet. And he bludgeoned my guy into the defeat. He couldn't knock him off his feet though. He couldn't knock Chuvalo. No one could knock Chuvalo off his feet. They just had to stop him from shipping too much punishment. Styles make fights. Ain't no one could tell me Buddy McGirt had bad stamina. Nobody. Buddy McGirt was an excellent fighter. Excellent. But when he came up against Meldrick Taylor and had to deal with that hand speed, and Meldrick wasn't no big puncher, but Meldrick just bombarded him with combinations, and it just mentally broke Buddy. He just broke. Because he wasn't going to stop punching. Just so fast. He didn't know where they were coming from. He didn't know where they were coming from. And Buddy was exhausted at the end of the fight. That's the only time you will pull up any film and see Buddy McGirt in a state like that. Buddy had a good jab. Taylor was just looking at that jab like, yeah, what's that? I'm just going to counter that with this. Just like, what the hell? You done that to a brilliant fighter. Your stamina is always subject to be tested. You have to fight the right fight for your stamina to be good. I hear people say Andy Ruiz has good stamina. He doesn't throw any punches. He waits for you to step to him before he does any fighting. He doesn't use any footwork. When AJ done the 12-rounder against Joseph Parker, without hardly taking a breath, they said, because he wasn't aggressive. Well, of course, because he wasn't aggressive. The easier you make the fight, the more you'll have in the tank by the end of a 12-rounder. Vladimir Klitschko, when he done his clutching tactics in Germany, you didn't see him out of breath in none of them fights. No, of course not. But when he couldn't clutch around Marius Wack's neck because he was too big, you saw at the end, and he was breathing hard. Styles make fights, man. When Derek Chisora was pushing Vitali, you could see Vitali was feeling the pace. You could see it. Vitali don't really like backing up like that. This fight, he had to back up because Derek was trying to bring the heat. Derek was shattered after he put everything into it. When Bryant Jennings fought Vladimir Klitschko, I was like, I don't get Bryant Jennings. Because the title was there for the taking that day. It was there. And when the 12th round was completed, I was looking at Bryant Jennings, I'm thinking, you still got a tank left of gas there. You needed Tunde Ajayi to tell you, empty the tank. Empty the tank. You needed Tunde in the corner. This is the heavyweight championship. Bryant's walking around after smiling, grinning. You should be shattered. I mean, you should have threw everything at it. He should have been trading shots to the point that he risked getting knocked out, or at the end of 12, they had to come bring oxygen to revive the guy that he put so much in there. This is the heavyweight championship. He's walking around smiling and looked like he's got energy to go party. And Vlad was vulnerable that day. But Bryant didn't push it. Maybe he couldn't. But it looked to me like he could have done. For Tyson Fury to apply his strategy, there had to be an element of a gamble to it. If Wilder had a better defense and a better ring strategy than quitting on his jab and looking for one right hand, if he could have weathered the first 6 or 7, who knows what could have happened. Fury did the right thing, kept the pressure on, testing his own gas tank, because he was setting the tempo. So even though he was tired, imagine how the other man was feeling when he was taking in body shots from Fury, when Fury was leaning down at his neck and his back. Fury was tired. He kept throwing punches. He didn't feel sorry for himself. That's what boxing is all about. That's what it's all about. I remember when Tony Simpson challenged Frank Tate for the middleweight title, the IBF title, in the 80s. And Jim Watt and Reg Guttridge were doing commentary. And Reg Guttridge pointed out that Simpson was looking for a breather, because he was getting on in age. This is his last title shot. The American commentary team had Tate well up, but Jim Watt, no, I can't have that. Simpson's well in the fight. He threw way more punches than Tate. Tate was flicking out a jab and looking pretty as far as Jim Watt was concerned. So Reg Guttridge pointed out in the later rounds that, it looks like Simpson's looking to take a breather this round, Jim.
You can't take a breather when you're the challenger, Reg. Every round you got to go out there to try to take it. Tony's got himself in the fight, he's kept himself in the fight. The last thing he needs here is a breather.
Simpson got knocked out shortly after, and here's what Jim Watt said.
It was a good punch, Reg, but Simpson gave away the initiative in that round. As you said, it seemed as though he was taking a breather, and at this stage, that was the last thing he should have been doing.
You can't really be taking a breather. Even when you slow the pace down and don't want to throw nothing, you need to be thinking about your next move. This is physical chess. You don't want to take a breather, but you want to control your breath. Breath control is what is important. It's kind of like when you see someone at the novice stage of trying to rap and they're trying to hold the beat, then they go off beat, rhyme sounding all sloppy now. You know what I mean? Because the breath control ain't there. You have to develop that breath control. You develop that breath control as an MC by learning how to project your voice properly, how to construct your bars, confidence. With certain rhymes, the more complex the style, you might have to take the breath in your head, not in your body. And that's like boxing.
The mind tricks the body, body thinks the mind is crazy.
The mind tricks the body, body thinks the mind's crazy. The body can perhaps do 100 press-ups. The mind can do them all day. Depending where you go, you get different answers and how much of the brain we use. I'm not massive on conspiracy theories, but there's definitely a lot of social engineering things they've put out there. So you won't have to think for yourself and see a lot of things for what they really are. Newspapers, magazines, fast food, TV programming, over-sexualizing the thoughts of youngsters, pharmaceutical companies, recreational drug usage, all of that shit. Like Wilder's fan base, they're in a cult-like state. They're just like zombies. And then they'll come out and say, we're not a monolithic group. Really? Do you know what that actually means? That means you have the capacity to understand people that have different opinions from what you do without wanting to spray them down on the street. Tyson was gulping in big amounts of air. And the way he saw it, whatever I'm going through, you're way more messed up than me. And he got the guy out of there. Wilder in the clinches was trying to rest and reset for the big right hand. His one big party trick. Fury wasn't doing that. Fury neutralized Wilder's power, leaning on him. And then from the clinches, they would break. Automatically, Fury's on him. Fury's thinking, I know where to attack him from the clinch. And he's pushing Wilder back. Wilder just wanted to rest. This is a bad rematch for you to take. Really bad. Once Wilder goes back in that zone, like the first fight, but more so in the second fight, where he's just throwing shots, not knowing if they'll land, the fight's lost. You can't fight somebody who knows how to fight like Fury. Front foot and back foot, and beat someone like that. You can't. I don't care what power you got. You can't. It wasn't like he was swinging a whole load of shots, just swinging one right hand, hoping that he's going to win the lottery. Otto Wallin and Joey Gamashi, who some of you know, if you was watching boxing back in the 90s. Before Arturo Gatti ruined his career with that horribly mismatched debacle of a boxing contest where no one knows what Gatti weighed on the scale. He went back and rehydrated and was way, way bigger than Joey. Let's not even talk about it. And he finished Joey's career. Horrible fight. Joey was always a good boxer. Good movement, good footwork, and good jab. And I actually saw some of that in Otto Wallin. I actually saw some of that. Wilder, it's always the long right or the 1-2. I'm going to try and get on my left foot, draw back my hand and bang, you know. And by the time the punch hit the target, Fury was so prepared, the punch lost all steam. And plus, you got to punch upwards against Tyson Fury. You got to punch upwards. So the power is therefore even more so neutralized because he's throwing the punch from way out and plus it's got to come upwards. He had to either be training to shorten up his shots when the fight gets up close or develop new angles to get that right hand off or to get that 1-2 off. Otto Wallin, he was prepared for when Fury fought on the front foot and the back foot. When Fury came after him, he used good footwork, good patience, didn't panic and start throwing with Fury when he knew he'd be disadvantaged. No. Good footwork, good southpaw jab, not a powerful jab though, Could work on that. Don't get me wrong, he's got lots of things to work on. Not a powerful jab, but a reliable jab. And he'd throw it at different tempos. Sometimes he'd just push it out there, and then sometimes he'd try and throw it a little harder. It wasn't what I would call a heavyweight weapon per se, the jab, but he would double it up and treble it up, even if it wasn't landing, to keep Fury occupied, keep him mentally occupied. He went to the body, same thing. He varied up the pace of his punches. Wilder doesn't vary up the pace of his shots. He doesn't use the footwork like Otto Wallin. He learnt that from Joey Gamashi. He's a heavyweight fighting like his super featherweight coach. Where do you think Ali learnt to box? He studied Sugar Ray Robinson. And there was another guy in his stable who Angelo Dundee was training, Willie Pastrano. Nice boxer, nice movement, nice skills. Former light heavyweight champion. He beat Harold Johnson. Beat a very good champion to win that belt. This is what Ali was studying. Not just how to be a heavyweight knockout artist. You think if he fought like Wilder, he would have survived as long as he did and had the success he did? No, he wouldn't. Wilder does not possess the toolbox to threaten Tyson Fury technically for long enough periods to legitimately give him a shot at winning a third fight. That's the absolute truth. If you're a bit weak, if you've got a weak constitution and you can't handle that because, you're not supporting the black power angle and all that. Well, look, I wouldn't mind if you did that and you compartmentalized it. You said, yeah, we want this to win for the black man. And then you acknowledged that he is a flawed boxer that needs work. I'd respect that. But you're not doing that. You think you have an entitlement to win because you're black. There ain't nothing on this earth that can sit on its laurels and expect to be on top of the food chain. Nothing. No white man, no black man, no Chinese man, no nothing man, no fuck all man. It's not just the physical beating Wilder took, it's the psychological damage that has to be considered here. It could take Wilder years to recover from what happened to him because of what he thought of himself before the fight. And they're throwing him back in there with an opponent that is totally the wrong style for him. Didn't you hear what George Foreman said? I regret making all the excuses. I should have let my opponent have his moment. And that's why he was able to come back stronger. He won his second heavyweight title 21 years apart from when he won the first one. But he had to go through a lot of tests and come back stronger. Does Wilder have that within him? Maybe. If you're a fan, don't you have no depth at all in your thinking? You don't realize that he's a different fighter now? He just lost massively. He's not the same fighter. Certain things that he had going for him are gone. Fear factor, gone. Andre Ward said, Wilder's opponents will take his punches better now. I put a lot of that down to he won't be able to get in their heads like that anymore. Kind of like Roy Jones after he took that fall against Tarver. And people realize, Roy is human. And that doesn't mean you're finished, but you have to change the way you box. That's what you have to do. People are going to approach you differently now. You have to change something. He said, I'm not chopping and changing. Well, now, if you don't consider chopping or changing, this is going to be a painful second phase of your career. Very painful and taxing. And you can try and get people thrown out of their commentator jobs, scapegoat your coach, your fan base. You can say, oh, you're coons and you're racist and you just hate the black. You can say all of that you want. Your detractors now can't wait to see you get in the ring and beaten up and exposed because you're too stubborn and too intent in standing in your own way. Listen, July can't come quick enough as far as I'm concerned. I might actually put some money on this one. Fury inside the distance. No hedging the play or anything like that. Nah. Fury inside the distance again. Wilder was never betting on himself. He was used as a pawn in network politics, working for the best interests of his manager and his advisor. It was them who was doing any betting on Wilder's career. And there's one bet left now. One left. And they're exercising that for July. any truth tellers around the Deontay Wilder setup, like Lou DiBella, tried to get him the best deal on the zone. Pundits and commentators like Steve Farhood or Paulie Malignaggi are either dismissed or they're going to try and dismiss him from their posts. So like a lot of people have pointed out, he's surrounded with a whole lot of yes men. But they're not really the problem. Wilder is the problem. He's allowed his career to be developed by damage control and lies, and he's happy with it. It wouldn't be so bad if he allowed that for a little while and then said, nah, you know something, I'm going to stand on my own too. Like, fight for undisputed. Take the biggest purses you can get. Learn how to box. Fight your number one contender who's been there for how many years. But no. He thought it was all real. But he believes everything the yes men say to him is authentic. Oh, you're the greatest. You're the greatest of all time. When Muhammad Ali's ex-wife said he's the greatest, he believed it. Yeah, you're the greatest. You're better than Ali. You're better than Mike Tyson. Even the guy who tried to save his life from the shallacking he was getting from Tyson Fury was sacrificed, and then they realized, you know something, this looks really bad. For one, the camp looks like it's fractured, and it's one too many excuses. So they retracted the decision, and Breland stays. Breland probably knows that the only reason he's staying is some more PBC damage control. But he probably doesn't care because, yo, it's a check. I can't blame him for that. But I bet you he can't say anything real to Wilder that he might need to hear right now. I bet you he can't. I bet you he can't throw no towels in if he's getting beaten the hell out of again in the rematch. I bet you he can't. Tyson Fury was supposed to be leverage tactics that worked himself out in 2018 in Deontay Wilder's favour. It was a cherry pick. We all know where Fury was coming from for that fight. Instead, Tyson outboxes him in the first fight. He's unlucky not to get the W, gets a draw. The expectation is that the Wilder rematch will be early 2019. Instead, Fury secures his own deal with top-ranking ESPN, starts developing his profile in America with a couple of nondescript opponents, nearly loses one of them, does some WWE. Wilder goes back to what he does best, smoke and mirrors, damage control, couple of knockouts over one opponent who nobody wanted to see the rematch. The other opponent shouldn't have got the fight ahead of Dillian Whyte, everybody knows that. Showtime declined to air his fight with Ortiz as a pay-per-view. The rematch with Fury eventually happens in 2020, and Wilder takes an absolute beating. What have we learned from that? Doesn't like pressure, doesn't take a great shot, inability to adjust, horrible work rate. You can track his footwork pretty easily, doesn't stick to the game plan very well, abandoned the jab after using it pretty well early. Fury can beat him going backwards and forwards. He has a bunch of yes men around him from his fan base and his immediate circle. So he likes to hear things that flatter him rather than the truth, which is detrimental to a boxer. In all eventuality, it's going to hurt you. Tyson Fury's brother and his dad Shane, they told him straight about the things they didn't like. And maybe Tyson didn't agree with some of it, but they told him. Whatever they didn't like, they told him. I don't like Ben Davison. Dad said, no, you get rid of him. Shane said, I don't like all the reporters coming around you every second. This is a training camp. Tell him straight. But that's the environment Tyson Fury's in. He's in a realer environment than Deontay Wilder. In a fake environment. His fan base are just like, you're a coon, you're a racist, we're entitled to win because we're black. But he was beaten badly, man. Beaten really badly. And to me, it's a long way back. I don't think he's going to make it. I really don't. I'm not saying he's not going to win no fights again. I just think him, Al Heyman, his fan base are not good at accepting their flaws and their liability in their own mess-ups. And that is what's going to stop them from growing, as far as I'm concerned. And you can't change my mind on it. Wilder takes all the blame, and rightfully so, because he's the front man, he's the boxer. So all the criticism, all the negative press, he's got to take it, because he's the front man. But Al Heyman, in my opinion, is not doing a good job with the black fighters that he has in the PBC. I'm really not impressed, and I'm hoping that he can get it together. I really don't know what's going on with the guy. People talking like he's some great business mogul. Well, what happened to the The UK venture. Remember the UK venture where you said it was so easy to make it in boxing? Well, how comes Al Heyman done one card and bailed? And it wasn't Pox and Sports who bailed. It was Al Heyman. He was supposed to supply the events, the fight cards. And he hasn't delivered. In my opinion, it's his fault why you don't have no heavyweight belts in America right now. It's Al Heyman's fault. If Luis Ortiz is as good as what you're saying he is, why wasn't he challenging AJ for the 3 belts? Why not? If he's as good as what you're saying, he would have took the belts off AJ. Why wasn't Wilder challenging AJ for the undisputed belt? The money was put up by DAZN. Lou DiBella's admitted that. That's why he lost his job, is because he wanted to take the deal, which included the AJ fight. 2 fights with AJ. What about Adam Kownacki? How comes he didn't go for it? Talking about Tyson Fury would be an easier fight for him than AJ. Well, why didn't you go take it? They all complain about short notice. Kownacki, Caleb Plant, this one, that one. Why aren't you always in training, ready to get in camp and take a fight? And now Al's pitching Wilder straight back in with Fury. I wonder if Al Heyman actually watched any of the fights that Fury had with Wilder. I wonder if he actually watched. He doesn't have no long-term plans for Wilder. He wouldn't take that fight, because anyone who saw and watched and observed just from a boxing standpoint would not throw their fighter back in 3 months' time. I don't care if it's Joe Goose and Foreman. I don't care who they put in charge of that camp. This isn't like Tyson Fury switching camps. When Tyson Fury switched camps from Ben Davison to Sugar Hill, he already displayed he was a superior boxer, that he just needed tweaking, that he just needed to tweak all the new things he was going to do and some of the old stuff he'd done. This isn't the case with Wilder. He ain't got a few tweaks. He's got a whole makeover job. A whole makeover job. He needs time, some soul searching, rebuilding, and then he can think about tackling a Tyson Fury. He's not over this defeat. 3 months is not long enough. He tried to be calm in the build-up and not scream and shout with Fury. That didn't work. Whatever he knows about boxing right now does not work in the ring in July. I've never been more sure of a boxing prediction than this one. Never. And I don't like being that confident, to be honest, on a boxing prediction. You see, if he was confident he could make amends in the rematch like Anthony Joshua, he wouldn't need to make up all these excuses. He wouldn't need to. That's why George Foreman made all them excuses. He was very insecure. Very insecure. His existence at that time was based on being the heavyweight champion of the world, the undisputed champion, George Foreman, the knockout puncher. And when that was taken away from him, he was stripped, naked. He hallucinated after the Jimmy Young fight. Him turning to God didn't just happen because he hallucinated. He was breaking down after the Ali fight. Trust me. It just actually physically manifested and culminated in Puerto Rico when he lost to Jimmy Young. Mental breakdowns don't always manifest in this big breakdown. They're gradual processes. And that's what Wilder's going through now. That's my belief. Don't be shocked if we see some bizarre stuff from Wilder. And I'm not going to try and guess what it will be. But don't be shocked before the July fight. Don't be shocked if it's called off for reasons we may never find the root of the answer, because he ain't right. He ain't right to box Tyson Fury again. After Foreman lost to Ali, he fought 5 opponents in the ring in one night, one after the other. I guess it's an exhibition now. It's registered as an exhibition. None of the fights are on his box rec. They were pros. Scored a couple of stoppages, but he looked sloppy in most of them. He was a little overweight. And Ali was in the crowd, rooting for the guys to beat Foreman, mocking Foreman. And it was a disaster of a night, because, you know, he wasn't right in his head. He was unhinged. Tried to bully some of the opponents when the bouts finished. He pushed his coach out the ring, started bullying another one of his entourage. He wasn't right. The fights were only 3 rounds apiece. But you could see these were journeymen, and some of them were getting emboldened because they already saw Ali beat up Foreman, so they knew he was vulnerable there, and they could see he was unhinged. And remember what Andre Ward said about Wilder's opponents from now being able to take his punches better, they felt comfortable in the ring. They were trying to get at Foreman. They had no fear. Some of them were showboating. Like Foreman was throwing these bizarre uppercuts, these comedy-like uppercuts that didn't land. He was unhinged. Foreman was getting hit. He was fatiguing against journeyman. Ali just kept mocking him, and he was coaching the last fighter that Foreman was fighting. And the fighter was listening to him. He was trying to rope and open all stuff, and Ali was just coaching him. Foreman, after the last fight finished, he went to talk to Ali. Ali was gone. Ali left the building. Foreman said, the reason I did this is because I was trying to get back my confidence. Do not put stressed fighters who have been stressed in fights, in stressful situations. Do not do it. I remember when Roman Gonzalez lost the first fight to Rungvisai. Some people scored the fight to Gonzalez, and I never understood that. I just couldn't get what they were watching. Didn't you hear the punches clunking off his body? What Rungvisai was throwing? Don't you see he suffered structural damage taking them shots? Are you crazy? You thought Roman won the fight. Ask anyone who listened. I said, if you pitch Roman Gonzalez immediately into a rematch with Rungvisai, it will be his funeral. Don't do it. And I wasn't just going off the Rungvisai fight, the Caradras fight. He was struggling bad in that. He struggled badly in the Rungvisai fight. The second Rungvisai fight, my man just flattened him out. Flattened Gonzalez. And I knew that was going to happen. Well, not that I knew. That was my prediction. You're getting knocked out. Now he's had a good long rest. He's got himself together. Had a few tune-ups and he's took Cal Yafai's title. But it's not over yet. We really don't know if he's back. When he goes in there with Rungvisai for a third time, then we'll see. Or if he rematches Estrada, then we'll see how much he has left in the tank. And Gonzalez is one of the more accomplished fighters in the game. Way more accomplished than Wilder. These comebacks ain't easy. Buddy McGirt believes that Wilder just has to make some minor adjustments and he'll beat Fury in the third fight. Now, I respect Buddy McGirt, but I don't agree with that. He could be right, but I just don't agree. I believe Fury's fought the best of Deontay Wilder. He fought Fury when he was coming off the Scarface table with the coke and all the meat pies around him. He fought Wilder and beat him on points but didn't get the decision. And then when Fury had a full camp and had been active and was in full boxer mode, we saw Wilder had no chance. Don't tell me he's got any chance in the third fight. The more likely outcome is my guy's career gets finished and Al Heyman don't give a shit. What I've noticed is black Americans are very patriotic in their support of other black athletes. They support all athletes who are American, but with the boxing thing, I've seen, like the passion Larry Holmes came out with, taking apart Wilder's performance. You can see he was disappointed. That was disappointment. Buddy McGirt saying just a few minor adjustments is optimism. That's flag waving. Tell me what these minor adjustments are, buddy. You're flag waving. Antonio Tarver, let me in the camp. I'll train you. Floyd Mayweather, I'll train you. Foreman, I want to train you. Everybody wants a piece. They want to see Wilder beat the British guy. When one of the Charlos left the arena, you could see he was agitated when he left. He was pissed off. Wilder let down Black America. And Black America want him to get back that belt. They really do. But I think they're asking a little too much, a little too early. Truth be told. Christine Poncher, she was commentating for ESPN, and she said it's clearly a pro-Fury crowd. I wonder if these things are having an effect on Wilder. And you see, I don't live out there. And I'm mindful of that. And I know how racially divided it is compared to London. Maybe not other parts of England. You'd be surprised about what goes on in certain parts of England. Some of you will be shocked and horrified. I've seen it firsthand. So I've got to take that into consideration, that there are a percentage of Americans who don't want to cheer for Wilder, and maybe his colour has to do something with it. But I'm not sure if it's that. I'm rationalising some of the stupidness he says has put them off supporting him. That's what I believe. But I could be wrong. But I'm wondering if that's having an effect on him. Pro Fury crowd in his country. You ain't going to get no pro Wilder crowd out here if you come to fight AJ or Fury. No way. Or Dylan. Or anyone. Now, some people are going to say, you don't get it, Beach. You don't live over here. Fair enough. But there's a lot of black American boxing fans, and the ones I talk to, I don't get the energy or the feeling that they're coons like you're saying they are. Because what they feel about Wilder, I feel about Wilder. And I ain't no coon. You can say whatever you want. I ain't no coon. And I know they ain't. And they don't like Wilder. They don't like Wilder. Because they know he tells too much lies. He's full of crap about his position as one of the greatest heavyweight boxers. They know he ducked Vlad. They know he ducked the AJ fights. They know he didn't fight Vitaly. They know all the fights that he's ducked and avoided. They know. They're not impressed by back-to-back killer Luis Ortiz makes him an all-time great. They know boxing. Just like I know boxing. So I'm inclined to believe that it's not the racial dynamic 100%. I believe there may be some context where you can make the argument, but that's not the full picture. You see, while you're making all this confusion, I'm talking to the fans as well about the gloves and PDs, this, that, we didn't lose, illegal punches, and all that shit there. You know what Fury's doing right now? He's already plotting how to defeat Wilder 2 times in a row and beat his head into submission again. You think that what you say is so important, everyone's just sitting down on your every word. Nah, my man is plotting already. Him, Sugar Hill, Andy Lee, the whole camp. Let's get rid of this clown and his excuses. Let's do a real thorough job on him again. Let's make him pay for not letting us have our victory. And then we can move on and fight AJ for undisputed. That's what you don't get. This is boxing. It's a sport. This ain't no soapbox or your entitlement space. As far as Tyson Fury and Sugar Hill are concerned, the fight's gone. It's done. It's over. It's over. Let's get ready for July. Wilder's still licking his wounds. I don't think he'll be psychologically ready for the fight. He might be more determined to go the distance, but he's just going to take more and more punishment. That's all he's going to do. This is more than likely going to be a humiliation. It really is.